Thank you so much, Hassan. And it seems pretty difficult task to speak after these giants speakers and human rights defenders, but I will try to add something, some insights to the previous presentations. But first, let me thank you so much for inviting me to this symposium. Thank you to Ibn Khaldun University, the organizing committee, the staff, and the students, and thank you to the attendees. So my presentation titled Palestine in the Genocide Era and Beyond International Responsibility. My aim from this presentation is to shift away from the conventional discourse solely on Israeli responsibility, which undoubtedly hold primary accountability, but instead I will focus on the international responsibility. Because without the international responsibility and the international community being complicit, the ongoing genocide broadcasted live on the screens would not have unfolded. It has become complicit as it always has been, albeit more visibly this time in the atrocities perpetrated against the Palestinian people. So I will traverse the historical mishandling, the legal obligations, the specter of complicity, and a visionary shift towards a paradigm shift, towards a rights-based approach shift for a more just future for Palestine. So starting with the international community role in facilitating the current genocide, here my focus is not solely on the states directly involved in the persecution of the Palestinian people and the support of Israel. Instead, I want to address the complicity of numerous other states in the international community, those with trembling hands that allows this situation to unfold. These states align themselves with what I can call status quo policy, rooted in three harsh realities. The first reality is that Israel, with its ongoing occupation, expansion plans, settlements, apartheid, wars on Gaza, siege, killings, settler violence, and widespread and systematic detention with impunity. And then we have those states providing support through financial aid, weaponry, goods, trade agreements, normalization, and political and diplomatic backing and coverage. And third, we have the other group of countries that always keep voicing condemnation for the aforementioned actions. So this enduring status quo has persisted for decades, leading to the current situation of genocide. So consider the historical dynamics that have fueled the Palestinian injustice and persecution. The international community trapped between inaction and past interventions, and this has regrettably created environment where the deprivation of rights for the Palestinian people has thrived, from the Balfour Declaration to the Nakba of 1984 to the 48, to the present day. The failure to take actions has set the stage for the tragedy unfolding in the region and the ongoing genocide. And let me just emphasize something again. When I talk about states that contributed to maintaining the status quo, this is to say that they should have taken measures and not just condemned. I'm not referring to measures that exceed imagination or contradict the rules-based international order. On the contrary, they are completely consistent with this rules-based international order, preserving and reinforcing it, because deviation from this rules-based international order carries and should carry consequences. Now, moving to the international responsibility in preventing and punishing genocide. So the Genocide Convention, ratified by the majority of the world nations, more than 150 states ratified the convention, as a commitment to preventing the horrors of mass atrocities. So even the name, the title of the convention is not just to punish for genocide, but to prevent the genocide from occurring. This means that the international community must confront its role in not only preventing genocide, but also in ensuring that those responsible for such atrocities face justice. So the Genocide Convention and the responsibilities of states for the internationally wrongful acts must be more than legal doctrines. They should be the moral compass guiding the global community towards swift and decisive action. This responsibility is what has motivated and enabled South Africa in a commendable move to bring a case against Israel for genocide before the International Court of Justice, which the other speakers elaborate on. And I want to tell you something, not about the case itself, but this landmark case will have significant and widespread consequences, not only for Israel, but also for its supporters. Two notable examples of these consequences include Dutch appeals. So we have a Dutch appeals court directing the Netherlands to cease exporting F-35 parts to Israel, citing the war in Gaza and the allegations of genocide. And then we have a Japanese trading giant, Iticho, severed ties with an Israeli defense firm due to the Gaza war and the ICJ determinations of genocide. So we can anticipate witnessing enormous such actions, bringing positive developments. However, achieving such developments necessitates our collective action and solidarity, recognizing that this is not just a moral responsibility, but again, is a legal responsibility. Yeah, and here also we need to mention and to remember the path of the International Court of the International Criminal Court, which is also very important. And here maybe I'm a little bit more optimistic rather than my colleagues. I totally agree with them that we all are disappointed from the International Criminal Court. We hope that things will be accelerated more, especially with the situation now in Gaza. But at the same time, I know one thing, that is the court is there to prosecute those who committed war crimes, and we should put pressure on the court when we feel that there is a problem in the proceedings with regards to the situation in Palestine. And I believe now the court and the prosecutor of the court, Karim Khan, with the pressure that was put by the states, especially in the last meeting of the assembly meetings of the states in last December 2023, and the work of the civil society organizations from Palestine and from all over the world succeeded in giving the court the way, giving the prosecutor the way to move forward through achieving and through having arrest warrants. Hopefully, I wouldn't say within the upcoming years, but I hope that we will see arrest warrant within 1 or 2 years. But let's see and let's wait and observe. And also, it's imperative to ensure that there are no double standards in discussions about international justice. and that all victims are regarded as equal before international law. And as we are speaking about preventing genocide, I want to mention that this obligation of preventing genocide extends beyond accountability. It also, and please, let's have this into our consideration. It also invokes taking immediate actions to halt the ongoing atrocities in Gaza. Presently, we all know that Israel is employing the weapon of starvation against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, a tactic that, besides constitute our crime constitute one of the elements for genocide. So what measures have states taken to fulfill their obligation in preventing starvation, a tool of genocide in the Gaza Strip? Could it not be argued that airdropping aid and supplies to Gaza hospitals, to Gaza people, could offer a solution to fulfill an international obligation to prevent genocide? Indeed, it can. And then moving to the complicity and accountability, complicity in genocide is an active endorsement of injustice. States providing financial aid, military support, or diplomatic cover to those engaged in genocide cannot evade moral and legal examination. Complicity is not an abstract concept. It is manifested in concrete actions. It is established through three requirements, three elements to establish complicity for any state in the world to be complicit in the genocide in Gaza. First, the crime has been committed, the crime here, the genocide, and then the complicit party materially contributed to its commission, and then the complicit party intended or was reckless as to its commission. So in the case of Gaza, there is no doubt that the crime is being committed, and now we have a ruling from the International Court of Justice confirming this. And then the financial and military support from complicit states to Israel has materially contributed to its commission. And now regarding the intent, the third element, according to genocide experts, complicity in genocide doesn't require specific intent. It suffices that states are aware of the genocidal intent of those they are aiding. At least disregard the fact that genocide may result from their activities. So, through financial, military, and political support, these states, like US, UK, and other states, supporting Israel have created conditions that made genocide possible, provided material support to perpetrators of genocide, and have knowledge of their genocidal intent implicating them in genocide. The Rome Statute criminalizes complicity, not only committing genocide, but also complicity to the crime of genocide, triggering individual criminal responsibility. And complicity in genocide is subject to universal jurisdiction, a legal principle that asserts the authority of any states in the world to prosecute individuals for those offenses, reflecting the global obligation to hold perpetrators accountable, irrespective of their nationality or any political ties. Have we taken this into consideration? Every country worldwide, Turkey, Arab states, Islamic states, states in the Latin America, any country in the world has the authority through its domestic courts under universal jurisdiction to prosecute individuals from Israel or its supporters who engage in genocide along with those complicit individuals from states supporting Israel. Lastly, I will speak about the future consideration and the rights-based approach. The path forward demands a paradigm shift from the traditional political negotiations to a rights-based approach. This shift involves not only recognizing and respecting the inherent rights of Palestinian people, but including their right to resist under international law, but it necessitates dismantling structures that maintain inequality and injustice in Palestine. You may have been following the recent hearings at the International Court of Justice that my colleagues talk about. But what I want to mention about this ICJ hearings and its awaited advisory opinion, that the objective of this advisory opinion proceedings is to have the court declaring that the ongoing Israeli occupation of Palestine is illegal, demanding immediate withdrawal. The court will also determine, okay, the court will also determine the responsibilities of states worldwide to ensure this outcome. So now, with this ICJ awaited advisory opinion and with the genocide case, this underscores the imperative for a paradigm shift in approaching the Palestinian cause, emphasizing the UN Special Rapporteur on Palestine, Francesca Albanese call for a rights-based approach that was detailed in her report in October 2023. In that report, Francesca Albanese called for a paradigm shift in the way that the states dealing with the question of Palestine, and to move from only calling for negotiations and a solution based on negotiations that is coming without any end, towards an immediate call for a withdrawal from the Palestinian territories, and also not just the call for this withdrawal, but also to take measures. There are measures in the international law, in the UN Charter, and they are there to be taken. Not just they are a theoretical doctrine in the international law, no, they are there to be taken, and we see these measures taken in other situations, like what we have seen in the situation of Ukraine, for example. So these measures are rooted in the international law, and they have to be taken by states based on this illegality of the Israeli occupation as a wrongful act. I will finish by saying that what does this international responsibility require states to do? First, as action plan, first, support resistance within the framework of international law, cease calls for negotiations and demand immediate Israeli withdrawal and colonial dismantling, utilize measures provided by international law, including diplomatic severance, political pressure, economic sanctions, and individual punishments, and then ensure accountability by supporting international justice paths and endorsing local courts' universal jurisdiction. Only through these actions can countries fulfill their obligations. With this, I conclude my presentation, but I invite you, if you allow me, to watch with me a 2-minute clip featuring the insightful and courageous of Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur. She presented her report, the report that I just mentioned to you, a year ago at the UN General Assembly in New York, advocating the required paradigm shift. Thank you so much.
Can you run the video, please? Or we are not connected, I think. No.
Okay.
No, we are not connected. It's computer. We are not connected.
No.
But you were. If you cannot help us, please, with the. Yeah, thank you.
Here.
If you want, and then when they are ready, then.
All right, so maybe we can.
One is the political approach, which is considering negotiation as the mantra that will materialize by itself, on its own. In order to have negotiations, you need to create the conditions. How you expect, those of you who have undergone colonization, have you been forced to negotiate the conditions of your liberations with your colonizers? No. And so why is this being asked to the Palestinians? And so self-determination should be realized first and as a precondition in order to then see what is the negotiation that is to occur between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Second, a discussion that has taken place in recent years is the engagement to promote prosperity through development and economic growth. But how can growth and how can economic development mean anything to people who are deprived of their fundamental rights, who cannot take their kids to school safely, who cannot access a civil court in 55 years? Please ask the state of Israel, because I cannot do that myself, why it's displacing 1,200 Palestinians from Masafer Yatta, who are seeing, as I speak, their houses bulldozed in order to have a firing zone? A firing zone. Israel has the right to train its soldiers in its own metropolitan territory, not in the territory over which it doesn't have sovereignty. So you see, it's all these distortions what pushed me to ask you to be honest, not to move away from this cognitive dissonance where you see the reality on the ground, but then you cannot stick to what is needed. Application of international law. The UN Charter is clear. You don't need other human rights bodies telling you that. There are economic, political, diplomatic measures that are there to be taken. And you can consider doing that as individual state, a regional state, pending the paralysis of the UN Security Council. And I also have another word of criticism for what I call humanitarianism, the way the question of Palestine over time, and not out of...
Thank you.
Thank you so much. By the way,